All right.
Okay, be seated. Exhibit number 32 then will be the offer of proof.
No, if I may approach, I can go ahead and hand that to you.
Okay.
So I don't want that in here.
All right. Hide it. All right. Next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, we have one more very brief video, and so that the record is clear, these are designations by both sides. It isn't just one side that's designated. So this is a combination of what everybody wanted to show, or the two sides wanted to show, I should say. And so the next one will be a Herman Turk, T-U-R-K, and it will be about 6 minutes long, if I understand correctly.
You want the lights out?
You know, it's short enough, it's probably not worth turning off the lights.
All right.
I don't like the word short, so I'll...
The court reporter is Mary Jo McGill, and will not swear.
Raise your right hand, please, and raise your right hand. Thank you.
I do.
Please tell us your full name.
Herman Stephen Turk, Jr.
Where do you work?
I work for Windsor Capital Group.
What is your job title?
I'm a regional vice president of operations.
How long have you held that title?
I've been in that position since 2006.
What are your job duties and responsibilities as a regional vice president of operations for Windsor Capital Group?
My responsibilities are to oversee the operational aspects of the hotels in our company. In addition to that, I also serve as the general manager of the Renaissance Hotel here in Nashville.
You understand you're being produced today as a corporate representative for Windsor Capital Group, right?
I do.
Have you ever been to the National Marriott?
Yes, I have.
How were you there?
I was there during the 2 years that we managed the hotel for West End. As I was the regional vice president, that hotel fell under my responsibility.
So, what were the policies and procedures specifically that Windsor was supposed to follow in 2008 for room reservations?
Well, actually, for room reservations, we utilized the Marriott Reservations offices, we call them central reservations, to handle reservations for the hotel. So we did not actively take reservations at the property. We referred those calls to the Marriott International Reservation Centers.
You know what the MARSA system is, right?
I did.
And what is MARSA?
Marriott Automated. It's their acronym for Marriott Automated Reservation System.
Right. The MARSA system was something that was utilized by people at the National Marriott to make reservations, right?
On occasion, perhaps, but not as a matter of practice. They would use it more to look for information about reservations. They would use it to enter rooming lists, for groups. If we received a list of names to be input to create reservations. But on a day-to-day basis, the people at the hotel didn't use it to make reservations per se because we overflow those calls to the central reservations office.
Do you remember reading in any of the definitions that people at the National Marriott were using the Marshall system to make reservations?
I don't recall that, no.
Right. Well, irrespective of whether you remember it or not, what were the policies and procedures you laid for reservation at National Marriott front desk people or at your service desk people were required to follow in 2008?
There was a pre-script that Marcia is set up in such a way that the information has to be data entered in a specific way. And so you really couldn't use the system unless you went exactly by the input format.
We call Paula Andrews.
Thank you.
Okay, would you tell the jury your name, please?
My name is Paula Christine Haggerty Andrews.
Miss Andrews, are you Erin's mother?
I am.
Okay, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, September 24th, 1951. Raised 40 miles away in North Kingstown. Dad was a naval worker. We stayed there our whole lives until I left for college and marriage.
Where did you go to college?
I went 3 years to the University of Rhode Island, down the street, commuted. And then when I couldn't get the education degree I wanted, I had to go to the Teachers College in Providence, 40 miles away.
Okay. And did you become a teacher?
I did.
Tell the jury what kind of school you taught, what did you do in school as teacher?
Well, I'm a specialist. I'm an art specialist, except for 1 year of high school where I taught migrant education, tutoring. My experience has been mostly in elementary art.
Okay. And you met your husband, Steve, sometime?
I did.
Okay. And when did you get married?
Got married in 1974, a long time ago.
How long have you been married?
42 years.
And was your first child Erin?
She was.
And your second child was Kendra?
Correct.
Well, tell us a little bit about Erin as a girl from your perspective as her mother.
Very loved, very much wanted, and a pleasure to raise.
Was she a child that was goal-oriented?
Oh, yes. I don't know if it's the firstborn syndrome or, yeah, she knew what she wanted. Sometimes we came to blows. She didn't get that cookie. She didn't get to stay up and watch The Incredible Hulk, but she knew what she wanted and she got there, and boy, you know, from age 7 she knew what she wanted.
And what's the date of her birth?
Her date is May 4th, 1978.
Making her how old now?
37?
Now, when she was a little girl, did she have some plastic surgery?
She did. Her birth was what's called precipitous, and she was born in 11 minutes. So when she decided she was going to be born, she was born. And it resulted in a cartilage tear in her ear. So she had that fixed, and it wasn't considered cosmetic, it was considered a birth defect, so it was covered by medical.
Okay, she had her ear fixed.
Correct.
Some plastic surgery for that?
Yep.
Did she ever have any other plastic surgery?
No.
So, are you exceptionally close
Yes.
to Erin?
Yeah, definitely. We are close.
Before July 2009, tell us from your perspective as her mother how her career was going.
Her career was a skyrocket. She was working her tail off. She took every opportunity she could get and volunteered for more. I don't think she had a vacation in 4 or 5 years. I mean, she started doing that in college. She did the radio station. She did anything she could to make a connection with sports.
And when she'd go out onto the football field to announce from the sidelines a game and what she was doing, were there signs sometimes up out in the stadium?
I remember them mostly at basketball courts.
Oh, okay, what were they saying?
Marry me, Erin Andrews. You're hot. Marry me.
Well, there came a time in July 2009 that a phone call occurred. And you know the call I'm talking about. So tell the jury about what time was it when this phone call happened.
I can't tell you the time. I can tell you it was evening. I can tell you about the screaming. I didn't answer the phone. I can tell you about my husband just turning, just all the color going from him.
Could you hear Erin's voice through that phone?
Yeah.
Was this a cell phone or was it a...
I believe it was a portable phone, but a landline type phone that we had on the dresser bedstand.
Was it on speakerphone?
No, no.
But the screaming was so loud you could hear it anyway. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you hear your daughter saying or screaming or whatever it was? What were the sounds
Well,
you were hearing?
there's screaming, and then there's dialogue, and it took me a while to get past the screaming to be able to focus into the dialogue. And I think my husband, at this point, I ran over to him, and I'm like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And I said, oh my God, what's wrong? You know, is she hurt? Is she what? And he said, and then I'm sorry. I heard her say, yes.
Go ahead.
I heard her say, naked. I am naked, Dad. They've got me. I'm naked. I don't know what's going to happen. What's going to happen to me is I'm naked. What about my career? What about my life? And she was hysterical. And I started to think, naked? This can't be right. This is not my daughter. There's so many reasons why there would not be any, and I heard video. I heard the word video. And I thought, it's another blonde, it's somebody else. And how did anybody get to her? She doesn't conduct herself in a way where there would be any tapes of her. And that wasn't a feeling, that was a certainty. I mean, that was a given. I know my daughter. I know her better than anybody else. And yet, she was falling apart, and I was scared.
What happened over the next few days?
Oh, gosh. It was just, it's such an emotional blur. I know my husband said, I think she told him to look at the tape. And he did. And I think I looked at it for a second long enough to know, oh yeah, it's her. I know my daughter. And he said, we've got to get this down. And how are you? And she was in LA and she lived in Atlanta. And I didn't want her traveling in public. The threat was still there. It was just, how do we do this? How do we coordinate this? At some point, she got back to Atlanta. I mean, our hearts were in our throat, and I got on a plane and I went up there. And then people were crawling on the balcony and phone calls and knocking at her door, and she was petrified and she was crying, and we knew we had to get out of there, and the only place I wanted her was home. And so we hired security to follow us. And before we left where she lived in a suburb of Atlanta, she said, Mom, I've got to get contact lenses. I've got to go to the mall. And I thought, oh gosh, not the mall. And we had to go in the mall. And it was like one of these two-story, malls where you have balconies and there's people. And I just felt, somebody's gonna get her. I mean, that's how we lived until we found out what we found out.
And you found out about the arrest of a man called Barrett.
Yeah, I think it was the initial viewing of the video and us being informed. That was in July, August, September, October. And yeah, that's when we knew there was a face. We didn't know anything about it at that point. We found out later. She was very concerned there may be more videos. We just kept telling her, it's not your fault, you're a victim, you've been assaulted. And there was no calming her down. It's a nightmare that doesn't stop.
Let's go through the next year,
Okay.
and we'll come forward to today, and we'll talk about how she's doing today from your perspective. But in a general sense, in a summary, how does she do over the next year?
Well, my daughter is a workaholic. She's so goal-driven and knows she's so realistic that, and I'm quoting, the next Erin Andrews is standing over her shoulder to replace her, that she wanted to get back, prove she could handle things. She went back. I'm going to say late September. And I'm basing this on events that I can punctuate that space with. I know she had to give an interview, which was extremely painful. Again, he was not arrested at that point. And then she went back to work, and she felt like still, if it happened, It can happen. She's always afraid somebody's going to touch her, get to her. She was very, very cooperative with fans. Sure, you want a picture? Come on over. I'll put my arm around you. And now, unless there's somebody standing there to protect her, she does not interact with people. She's very, very frightened of crowds. She's able to do her job well. She's a consummate professional because that is her escape. Once she can sort through that, okay, I'm all right here, and then she focuses on the games. But, she still has to travel, and that makes her very nervous. Understandably so. She just always has that monkey on her back of loss of security, safety, and a violation of her most personal aspect of her life.
Now, you said she's able to carry on her professional life as well as she did before. Right. Or not.
She's thrust herself back into it. And again, I almost think she's trying to compensate and be in control of that aspect of her life. Through no fault of her own, she lost control. And by golly, she's going to show the world she can still make a living and be passionate about what she loves. And I'm proud of her.
I know you are. Now, when she lets her hair down around you, though, what is it like as opposed to before this happened?
It's like it's like something that's always there. I would say she's short-tempered. She can fly into a meltdown. You don't know what's going to trigger it. I've said things that I thought would be comforting. And, it's that sort of back off that I didn't have before. And I think it's like a thing she can't control it. She's been humiliated. She's been, and the humiliation continues. The things that woman has had to hear breaks my heart. And they are things that I cannot repeat in court, and I wouldn't. I'm a woman who has pride in women, and I'm not going to say those things. But she's had it thrown at her. Again, she's going to get through that game. She's going to get through the conversation. But it's scarring.
Now, you and I were talking the other day, and you told me a story about her when she was a little girl and a paper hat.
Yeah.
Tell the jury the story about the paper hat.
There's all sorts of strategies of parenting. Kids go through phases. You figure out what they've got, the problem, the insecurity, you do it, and then you move on to the next thing. And there was a time where, like all children, something was under the bed, I'm having a bad dream, Mom, can you check out the closet? Okay, well, I'm an art teacher, so I take the construction paper and I make her a little good dream hat. And she lays on the pillow and it's up on top of her head, and of course when she wakes up it's on the floor, but it was sort of like a little magic protection thing. And probably made me feel better as a parent than maybe it made her feel better, but the point is, you spend your life with your loved ones, and what do? Whether it's, oh gosh, my tooth came out and it's bleeding. Hey, you're going to get another one. It's going to be okay. I got tripped coming home from school. My arm's like this. We'll take you to the doctor. You're going to get a cast. And it's going to be okay, because that arm's going to be okay, and it's all going to be in the past. If I had a magic wand, and there is no magic wand, or if I had a paper hat that could make this go away or make her feel better, I'd make 1,000,000 of them.
That's all.
Yeah, I can